You're the person people come to when things fall apart. You don't just show up. You fix it. You stabilize it. You make it work. Somewhere in the midst of all of that, you've learned to be so steady for everyone else that you forgot that you're allowed to need anything at all. I'm not guessing. I know. Because I've lived in that space since I was 6 years old. The space where you say, I'm fine, so many times you start to believe it. Where you cancel the one thing you've planned for yourself because someone else's crisis felt more urgent. Where you go to bed exhausted and realize that no one has asked you how you are. And then you get that little like, I didn't ask myself how I felt either. That's what we're about to talk about. We're not discussing burnout. We're not discussing self-care. We're talking about the quiet, invisible way you've been abandoning yourself and how to stop it. Let me tell you about a Tuesday a few years back. I woke up tired. Not regular tired, that bone deep, already behind kind of tired. I got my kids ready for school. I made breakfast. I managed the schedule. I fielded 3 text messages before 8 a.m. from people who needed something. Then I sat down at my desk. In that moment, I realized I never ate. I hadn't showered. I hadn't checked in with myself not one time. When I tried to think about what I needed that day, my brain went blank. Not because I didn't have needs, but because I gotten so good at not asking that I stopped knowing. That is self-abandonment. Not the dramatic kind where you fall apart and everyone notices all at one time. The invisible kind. Where you just keep going and going until one day you look up and you realize you are not included in your own life. And let me be honest, as usual, there's a truth that no one will tell you. They're not going to say it out loud. You're not burnt out because you give too much. You're burnt out because you never, ever tend to be on the receiving end. You give and you give. And then you give some more. But who gives back to you? And it's not because they don't care to give back to you, but it's because you've made yourself so low maintenance, so capable, so fine that they believe you. And worse, you believe you too. You tell yourself, I don't need as much as other people. I'll rest when things calm down. I'm just tired. I'm fine. But things, they don't calm down because you're the one keeping them calm. And that gap between what you give and what you get back, that's where resentment lives. That's where the numbness you feel right here lives. That's where you disappear. Listen, I know a woman. I worked with her for years. One day she told me a story that sat with me for a minute. She said, I plan every meal in this house. Every single one. Last week, my husband asked what I wanted for dinner. I couldn't answer. Not because I didn't care, but because I genuinely didn't know. I've been asking everyone else for so long that I forgot that I'm allowed to have a preference. That's what I'm talking about right there. It's not about dinner. It's about the slow, steady erasure of yourself in service of everyone else. The worst part, you don't do it because you're weak. You do it because you're strong. Because weak people collapse and force others to step in. You just keep going. That's why no one notices. That's why you don't notice. Because it works until it doesn't. Well, let me tell you something. There's definitely a difference between generosity and self-erasure. Generosity is when you give from fullness. You help someone, and yeah, it costs you energy, but you feel connected. You feel good. You feel human. Self-erasure is when you give from emptiness and call it love. You help someone, and afterwards you feel invisible, resentful, alone. And it's not because they're bad people, but because you just gave something you didn't have to give. And here's a brutal truth. Most of the people in your life, they don't even know that you're doing this. They think you're fine because you told them over and over you were. They think you like being the strong one because that's all they've ever seen you do. They don't know you're drowning because you smile while you do it. So let me say this for you, because most won't say this out loud. You're tired of being strong for everyone but yourself. You're tired of holding it all together while quietly falling all apart. You're tired of being the reliable one, the steady one, the one who never needs a darn thing. When the truth is simple, you need so much, and you're just too scared to ask. Not because you're broken, but because you have learned early in life that needing things make people look like a burden. That being useful will keep you safe. That disappearing was easier than risking rejection. So you become the person who doesn't need help. And now you're so good at it, you don't know how to stop it. Here's what I need you to hear. Hear this loud and clear. You didn't fail at self-care. You were never taught that you mattered outside of what you could do for everyone else. Sit with that for one moment. You're not lazy. You're not selfish. You're not broken. You were just operating under a rule that said that your worth is equal to your usefulness. As long as that rule is running in the back of your mind, you will never feel safe enough to stop it. That rule is a lie, and it ends today. There's a reflection that goes with this called the self-omission check. You don't have to do it right now. You don't have to be ready. You don't have to answer anything perfectly. When you're ready, it will quietly show you where you have been leaving yourself out. Not to judge you, not to shame you, just to help you see clearly. Some people go through it right away. Some people come back to it later. Both ways are fine. What matters is this. Once you see where you're missing, you can't unsee it. Clarity is where change actually starts. By the time we're complete, you'll have the ability to recognize self-abandonment in real time. Not 3 months later, not a year later, not 10 years later, in that moment. A daily framework that keeps you whole. Simple questions you can ask yourself every morning and evening. The skill to say no without guilt and mean it. A practice for redirecting your strength inward. You know, the same strength you've been using for everyone else. A new agreement with yourself that you can return to whenever you slip. This is not theory. This is the blueprint for living differently. It starts with seeing clearly. Here's what I need you to hear before we go. You're not selfish for wanting to be included in your own life. You are not asking for too much. You're not broken. You've just been living in a system where your needs were never part of the equation. And that system doesn't fix itself. You don't rewrite it by becoming someone else. You rewrite it by turning that strength, that same strength that you've been using for everybody else, back towards yourself. And you do it without guilt, without collapse, without losing who you are. That's what we're doing here. That's what we're doing. So by module 5, you'll have the exact framework to do it and get it done. You're not included in your own life right now. And that ends today. Let's keep going. I'll see you in the next module.